Rory here for vlog number 3. And I'm actually at this point, it's absolutely beautiful down here in the mornings. I wanted to talk to you about the kind of 3 agents. Well, by the way, I'm a real estate agent, so that's why I'm talking about this. And I wanted to talk to you about kind of 3 agents that, if you're selling your house, you'll probably come across at the moment. You've got the uneducated agents that started in the last kind of year and a half, 18 months, and they've been pretty much flat out selling opening door, and it's sold, and it's been a really good market. You've got the kind of agents that have been around a while, say myself, 10 years, anywhere from 5 to 10 years, that didn't start in a hot market. The market was a bit tough, and you had to be a bit had to have a bit harder conversation with sellers about price, about being a bit more realistic, or whilst you can be optimistic and you can hope for an absolute pot of gold, but it's more process driven. You know that the process will get you the price. And then you've got agents that are probably just super data driven, and their first conversation might just be smacking in the eye straight away. And whilst that is also good, sometimes that leaves agents to underprice things because they're so data driven, and they maybe forget about that emotional buyer and that emotional aspect of a sale, which can normally get you a little bit better price than what the data would just say. And for a few years, I was pretty guilty of that because I'm quite data driven, and if I go into something, I go in all in, and I want to know every bit, like how does it work this way? Why does that affect this? I'm constantly looking into how finance affects borrowing powers and what that does to the market, etc. Just basic economics, because all these things play a big part on property prices, and there's a lot of moving parts that affect the price of the home. Doesn't matter how beautiful the home is, it's more so what's driving everything. And really, I think most of home prices in your mum and dad pricing areas are reflected on how much credit is available for someone to borrow. In my opinion, borrowers will always stretch themselves. If they fall in love with a property, they'll borrow 99% if they're allowed to, but the banks don't let you do that for good reason, to keep buyers safe and to protect their asset. At the end of the day, they're borrowing the money, so it's their asset until you pay it off. So I think now what sellers will find is if they rank 3 agents in all different brackets of life, or their experience, I would say, if they rank an agent that's been doing it 30 years, he'll say something different to, say, an agent that's been doing it 18 months. The agent that's been doing it 18 months, if they've only experienced good times, they're going to say, yep, okay, whatever price, let's put it up, because they need a listing, and they're hungry, which is a good thing. You want your agent to be hungry, and you want them to be out there and optimistic, and you need that energy. You need that energy when people walk through the door, because you need to, at the end of the day, you're selling a property, and if you're doom and gloom or standing on your phone ignoring people because you're like, oh no, it's way overpriced, but whatever, the data says it's way overpriced. You don't know it's way overpriced, really. Someone might see the same value in it that the seller sees. And then you've got the older head that is, maybe myself, like I'll go, look, these are the 3 recent sales. Do I think? But then I'll dive deeper into that. I'll say which agent sold that, how was it sold, what was the method of sale, how long was it on the market for, all the different factors that get the price. Method of sale, how long it was on the market, what marketing did they use, did they style the home, did they present it in its best light, was there a little bit more, or was it just poor timing? Maybe it was right on the budget announcement and everyone sat on their hands, or something like that. So when calling an agent, I would get multiple agents if it was me selling my home, and I would look at the landscape and not just listen for someone to tell me what they want to hear, because there's a lot of agents right now that'll just tell you what you want to hear and then soften you up. It's a bit like the media, yeah? Especially auctions, especially auction agents, in my opinion, in Darwin market, where probably 1 out of 20 houses actually sell at auction or sell on the day of auction. The auction in Darwin, unless it's unique or, you know, there's a heap of competition in the market for that property, the auction a lot of the time is to condition a vendor's expectations. Just like the media will say, for instance, let's talk COVID for an instance. This might get me bloody banned or something on the algorithms, but who cares? Leading up to lockdowns, they were saying, we made it in lockdown, we made it in lockdown, and they were conditioning people to, okay, when the lockdown comes, it was expected. It's a bit like the auction. Look, first open, not many people through. Feedback was this price, feedback was this price. And they're telling the vendor you're overpriced without them having to say you're overpriced. They're saying, yeah, look, we're probably not where we want, but once we get enough competition, we might get there. But everyone walking through the door is saying, I think it's 900, and the owner thinks it's 1.1. There's a big difference there, you know, 200 grand off. You know, we as an agent know, look, you get a couple of people fighting it out, we might get to $1 million. Pretty unlikely we're going to get to that 1.1. But after the vendors heard it 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks in a row, they're like, oh, okay, we'll temper our expectation down, and okay, we'll get $1 million. The agent high fives, he got a great result. He knew it was probably only worth $1 million on a really good day anyway, but he didn't want to have to tell you that. He'd rather the market give you that feedback. So that's more of your experienced agent will do that. Because he's letting you down softly. Whereas people that are solely data driven will just tell you it's $1 million. You're crazy if you think there's anything more in it. Good day's $1 million. And then you probably won't list with that guy. So I would say hear all 3 people out and ask them why they're using the method of sale. And ask them, do you think I'm overpriced? And can you show me where I am overpriced? And can you show me where something extravagant like that's been achieved, and what was the method? And really go into the detail, because it's a really, really stressful time when you're selling a property. I've sold property of my own. It's stressful even for me, and I've sold hundreds and hundreds of properties, and nothing more stressful than selling my own. So I think agents that haven't ever sold their own home or bought their own home probably can't relate to how you're feeling. Whilst they still might be really good at their job, they probably can't relate to how you're feeling because they haven't actually sat in that seat, been there and done it before. So I think that's also important, that you have a real honest conversation and say, look, I like to be communicated this way, or I like to get hit straight between the eyes. Tell me exactly, you know, is it overpriced? Is it this? What was the harsh feedback, you know? Someone might say, oh, it needed paint, needed this, needed that. But you might not agree, but that's the feedback at the end of the day. And that's what, you know, if you hear that from 3 or 4 buyers, chances are that's probably what the market's feeling, and you probably need to hear it. So sometimes it's good to ask, what am I doing wrong? Or where can I improve the property? Because presentation is key, and it's a bit late to start improving the property once you're already on the market. Because the first people that came through that first week, chances are they're probably not coming back if they didn't like the presentation. So it's all well and good for you to go, oh, yep, we'll fix that, and then tell your agent to call them back and say, oh, look, they fixed that now. In the back of the mind of the buyer, they're not coming back, you know what I mean? So presentation's key. Getting an agent that is, you know, well versed in markets, not just good markets. Market like we have now, it's a little bit more stagnant than it was 6 to 8 months ago, and someone that's worked in the worst market, because they'll tell you really, hey, when they think they've got every cent they can, they'll tell you, you really need to consider this because we think the market's going to keep going down, because that's what it was like, you know, not too long ago. People forget the bad times and they remember the good times, but good times, in my opinion, don't last as long as the bad times. And you don't want to be the one holding the bag on a property that you go, I should have sold it 6 months ago. I should have sold it 8 months ago. Why didn't I listen to the first agent that told me it was here and he was experienced, but I went with the fella who'd been doing it for a year because he promised me a silly price. There's probably a reason he's promising you a silly price. Maybe he really needs the listing, or maybe he's just uneducated and hasn't seen the harder market, maybe he wasn't aware how hard the market was. So there's all these different factors, and I think it's really worthwhile having a really broad conversation, interviewing multiple agents, and stop getting fixated on fee. At the end of the day, if you don't sell it, you don't pay anything. Yeah, you've just cost yourself money in marketing and time on the market is everything. So if some agent's 2%, one agent's 3%, one's 1.5% or something, there's probably a reason they're charging those fees. It comes down to skill and previous results. And the good agent that's charging you 3% or something, they happily walk away if you know, or they're happy to lose it if you go to an agent's 1.5% who's been doing it a year, because they know it'll still be on the market in 6 months. You probably call them up, hey, should have listened to you. Can I sell with you now? And the conversation will probably be like, okay, but we're selling it, like we're listing at this price. I'm not negotiating because this is what it's worth. You've already tested the market and you should know now that it's not worth whatever the guy promised you before. So it's the process, not the promise of price. It's always going to get you the best price. Anyway, just a couple of thoughts. Anyway, still using this gimbal. It's pretty bloody cool. I'm kind of getting the hang of it a bit more. People are looking at me like a bit of a weirdo, but whatever. I guess you get that when you start doing videos and things like this. Like, I don't use vendors' money to pay for fancy videos of myself because I think it's wrong. So I'm just having a crack at doing this, a bit more honest, broad conversation. And it's really nice down here today. It's about 22 degrees. I'm waiting for a call to go view a property that I'm going to be bringing to the market next week. It's a ripper. So I thought I'd just come and shoot this, practice this gimbal thing, and put another blog up for the first time. So I hope you enjoyed it. If it was confusing, I'm sorry. But reach out, put a comment in, ask me a question, whatever. Always happy to help. Yeah, talk to you soon. Cheers.